You say potato, I say potato goes the old song about how people experience the world in different ways. It turns out that what you call each book of the Bible contextualizes that book and also primes you to hear certain messages. Think about the names of the book that we begin this Shabbat. In English, it's called the Book of Numbers, but in Hebrew, it's called the Midbar, in the wilderness. Rabbi Ismar Sharsh comments that I prefer its Hebrew title, In the Wilderness, to the English equivalent Numbers. The latter, Numbers, strikes me as slightly sterile and triumphant, looking backwards to that population explosion that transformed a family into a nation in the face of inordinate adversity. The former, in contrast, is dynamic and sober, anticipating the setbacks to come. The wilderness unfolds not as a place of quick transition from slavery to sovereignty, but rather as a stern test of character. I wonder, though, if there really is wisdom in this book that comes both from its wilderness side and its number side. So as Rabbi Schorsch points out, wilderness is scary, and the time in the wilderness is scary, but I love thinking about the book from the perspective of what happens during that wild and unpredictable time in the wilderness. There are many traditional sources that focus on the power of what it's like to be outside of civilization, how it's only in the desert that we could become a nation. The silence, the tranquility, the vastness of it all, that's what allows spiritual growth. The Haftarah that would be read with this parsha if Sunday wasn't Rosh Chodesh, comes from the book of Hosea, and it imagines the desert as a place of reconciliation. God says, assuredly, I will speak coaxingly to her, the Israelites, and lead her through the wilderness and speak to her tenderly. This week in our Wednesday morning Torah class, Rabbi Greenberg spoke about the desert as a place that is both terrifying and uncertain and lonely, and a place of personal insight. And she brought a very powerful image of wandering through the desert being parallel to the process of giving birth, a painful experience, but that ultimately yields beauty and newness. And she in the class connected these conflicting emotions to our experience right now, what it's like to be in the wilderness of this period of time and what are our hopes for later. But as much as I'm drawn to the midbarness, the wilderness of the book, the wildness, the possibilities of that journey, I want to hold on to the name Numbers as well. Because right at the beginning of the book, there's a census of the people and of the priestly tribes, a description of the Israel camp that, with all due respect to the accountants here, is about as exciting as a spreadsheet. But here too, I think there is wisdom. There was, as some might remember, an episode of the TV show West Wing that was all about a national census in the United States. Aaron Sorkin, the show's creator, spoke about why they made an episode focusing on counting Americans. And he said, there's also drama to be gotten from issues that most people would consider very dry and wouldn't want to pay attention to. Last year, we did an episode about the census and sampling versus direct statistics. You just say the word census, he said, and people fall asleep. It's a questionnaire. It turns out that it's terribly important. There is a genuine issue there with two sides who disagree passionately about it. And anytime you get two people in a room who disagree about something, there is a scene to be written, and that's what I look for. In this parsha, there actually is no drama around the census, even though in the Bible as a whole, it is an incredibly and surprisingly fraught topic, another sermon. But while there may not be explicit drama here, I think there is a conversation here that deserves attention, the conversation between wilderness and numbers, between chaos and order. Wilderness says, I am so cool. I am the Mac to your PC. I am possibility and revelation. Hey, Numbers, your time has passed. Numbers responds, well, yes, you are, but I am careful and reliable. I am the values that steady you. I am careful and thoughtful, and without order in this camp, the people won't begin to know where to look for holiness. Wilderness, that is so boring. Come on, let's go, let's move along. Numbers, without me, no one knows their people or their tribe. If you don't lift up every person, if you don't lovingly count each one, then some people are going to fall through the cracks and you'll get lost. You'll get lost in your wilderness. I think this conversation between wilderness and numbers gets played out in our lives all the time, between parents and kids, between partners, between friends, and in our communal life. These days, there are so many questions how our country, our world moves forward with this disease that humbles the greatest experts. What does it look like to begin to think about reopening our shuls, our workplaces, our lives to the glorious unpredictability that comes with life together? How do we navigate Shabbatot when we can't be physically together? Shavuot when we crave sitting across the table from a study partner? How do we think about by holidays, which no matter what we do, and I promise we're thinking creatively and we're thinking about all kinds of things, but no matter what we do, it will be so different than those that came before. And as I consider these questions, I hear numbers reminding me of the power of slow thinking, of data, of making sure that we see everyone so that everyone has a place in the camp. Numbers is about the traditions that have sustained us, the rules that have guided us, the words that have comforted us. Numbers is not exciting, but it makes sure no one gets lost. But I also hear Bamidbar in the wilderness reminding me that meandering conversations often yield insight, that the path most trodden is not always the most secure, that life comes with risk, and our challenge is to manage chaos. We cannot wish it away. Wilderness and conversation are still in, wilderness and numbers are still in conversation, and that's a good thing because they'll get us through all of this if we only would listen to their voices.